Hairier problem. Rise of the Furball by Blue Bastard. Chapter 26. Saving Grace. Coco Palmel sighed, looking out the window of the hotel rooms she was supposedly going to have all to herself. The view was decent enough, a high vantage point looking out on the forest bordering Baltimore, but otherwise only a reminder that this was only a temporary change from her usual stomping grounds of Manhattan. Coco! Where's that decaffeinated coffee I sent you for? Another sighed before the underappreciated Mary answered. On the table in front of the fireplace, where you told me to put it. No answer, though that was expected. Surrey Polymere had dragged Coco all the way across Equestria simply so she could visit a friend who was in the dressmaking business. And by visit, it was really implied to be steal any half-decent design to be incorporated in Surrey's next line, in all likelihood. Fashion Week was coming up in a few months, and Surrey had, as usual, sliped off in actually designing anything. So now she was rushing to throw something together, simply to stack her portfolio. It was for those reasons Coco never shared any of her ideas with Surrey. The more professional of the ill-fitting pair would just claim that they were hers, and Coco stole them, resulting in a pay cut. But Surrey was more wise about how the world worked, and without comfort the fashion industry was, it had been fortunate to even let Coco be her assistant. It was pure luck, however, that Surrey really didn't care that much about Coco's personal history, because if she ever learned how deep Coco was connected to the Changeling invasion of... Something in the corner of her eye caught the watery focus in the mirror, breaking her train of thought. A new one began, however, when what looked like a ghost pony was darting in and out of the thicket, away from Coco's point of view. Coco! Sighed Surrey all of a sudden, followed by the feeling of an empty cup of coffee hitting the back of Coco's head. The surprise attack caught her off guard, and balance suddenly being lost as he stumbled into her. The cup harmlessly hit the carpeted floor, being made of unbreakable material. I don't pay you to stare off into space, do I? No, you don't. My bad, Miss Surrey. Quickly apologized Coco, already back at her host with one holding a coffee cup. I say, you look rather pale. Well, paler than usual. Like you just saw a ghost. I thought I did, but that was just probably my imagination. Your imagination will be the end of you at this rate. But not while I still have use for you. Come, we have work to do. And get me another coffee! Yes, right away. With one quick glance at the window, Coco chided herself for being stupid. Ghost pity, as if. She thought while she left the room to get the fifth cup of decaf coffee for her employer. I must be going mad under Surrey's payroll. Hopefully I'll find something better at Fashion Week. Well, Tia, asked Luna patiently, you said I needed to be here to do something involving Mother. Yes, well, grumbled Celestia. That was before Discord decided he needed to go use the restroom. Typical. Well, then again, it's Discord, not totally unexpected. Yes, but I do hope he knows better than to try to make all the royal paintings out of alignment again, snickered Celestia. Oh, I shouldn't be doing anything, so... said Discord, who surprisingly just walked through the door instead of some needless elaborate method of going through a wall. After what Medical Lady did to me when she caught me trying to replace the police reserves with milk, I have to wonder if she wasn't originally going some kind of pony terrorist who was trained since birth to try and overthrow governments. The Royal Cleaning Staff happens to be one of the last lines of defense should the worst case scenario happens and an enemy force gets inside the castle, explained Celestial with a sly smile, because no pony will suspect the lovely cleaning maid to know how to snap an enemy's neck with just their tail. Wait, wasn't that my idea back before the whole Nightmare Moon thing? I never said it wasn't, Lulu. It's still relatively recent that the cleaning staff required basic knowledge of at least two different kinds of martial arts, namely because that's how long it took for me to lobby for more control over the screening process. Yeah, a stone prison was merciful compared to an army of trained killers you have mopping the floors. I guess your mother was right in asking me to withhold the scroll to you already, coming to Discord. Thou hast done what? Bellowed Luna, her temper flaring to the point shades of Nightmare Moon may or may not have flashed through Celestia's mind. Present thy possessor to us immediately! Hey, easy, your majesty. Faust told me to hold on to it until I felt you were ready, and now I do. Discord snapped his talents, and instantly a scroll appeared in his grasp. Celestia instantly recognized it as the scrolls he had been allowed to feel with her magic, but not read. Back at the abandoned mine shaft where Raspberry Merrill met her BFF Heliodor 70 years ago. Pray tell what reason thou hast for deeming us unworthy prior to this day, snorted Luna, seizing the scroll from Discord's palm with one swing of her foreleg. Well, until a few years ago, you two were in a war of succession, were you not? We will have you know that, argued Luna, catching herself. After a moment of thought, she resumed her initial demeanor before retorting to the royal candlelight voice. Apologize. You're right, Celestia. And I wouldn't get to get along as well as we should have, for both the sake of our mother and for the country. That's behind us now, said Celestia, but currently I am wondering what is the business with Raspberry Barrel. We did beat Mother, following to defeat Sam alone, if only briefly by complete chance. At no point did she mention some kind of prophecy about a green phoenix. You met her? Discord asked, surprised. Ah, I will need to ask how she was doing at a later time. Right now, it is of the utmost importance that you two read your mother's note and be up to speed. Well, not. The royal scrolls, sisters, searched the scroll in your magic auras and used it, and unrolled it. I was sure of what they would find. So good! Gasped Lightning Dust, in between facefuls stuffed with food. Hey, might you save me for the rest of us? Dicker dashed. Oh, don't worry. There's plenty of food to go around, cheerily said Casimir. And now I'll just make more. I guess you're pretty hungry, aren't you? Lightning could only nod eagerly as he started to reassemble a winged hamster more than a Pegasus pony. Yeah, thanks for hosting us for dinner, Mr. Ascot and Mrs. Casimir. Thanks, Fluttershy. His plate was loaded with more food than the timid mare could possibly eat. Though mostly out of Casimir's assistance, that the ponies helped themselves to the smorgasbord of food as simultaneously produced as a result of Raspberry returning home. Oh, but we could do simply anything less, exclaimed Ascot. After all, it's not every day this old inn plays host to a princess. Her entourage at the same time as somebody as special as Raspberry is allowed to be with us again. Actually, spoke up Twilight, there's 2 princesses being served here tonight. She gave a wink to Raspberry. Only the recipient could only cringe with his embarrassment. What? There's another princess coming? Which one? I mean, no offense, but Kay's is a bit taller than our usual clientele. And then for both Celestia and Luna, well, I don't think our ceilings are high enough. Oh dear, said Rarity. I do believe I forgot to mention that part of the events for Canterlot in my letters. You kind of forgot to tell me you were sending letters, grumbled Raspberry, trying to look with Heliodor as they didn't know what was coming. Will somebody please tell me who's coming to dinner? Asked Casimir. Raspberry's the young princess! Exclaimed Pinky. To see by Sabra's bloodline and Sabra's bloodline solid quest higher royalty, she's a princess! Is that true? Eagerly asked Casimir. You're a princess? The shocked look at Raspberry's face told all. Hold on. I get I'm of royal blood, only for the worst reasons imaginable, but that doesn't make me a... Actually, yes it does, said Twilight, smiling with a touch of embarrassment. I was supposed to tell you earlier, but as you have a very direct connection to the royal bloodline, you are, in fact, a princess of the realm. Your adventure is to be planned over the course of the next week and held in the Crystal Empire. Raspberry looked at Twilight as the purple alicorn had grown a second horn. You're kidding. Please tell me you're kidding. Nope. You're saying that you and the other princesses thought it'd be a good idea to take the pony who nearly demolished the ruling body of Equestria by complete accident and make her some point on your level of the Crystal Empire? Have you forgotten whose blood runs in my veins and why me, having been constantly reminded today of how I'm basically an expensive DJ Sabra, getting crowned a legit princess in the place that he screwed over for decades before he made advances in 1,000 years might not be a smart idea? I mean, do you really think the Crystal Ponies will accept that? I don't see why now, commented Applejack. For all you say, King Subaru's blood runs in your veins. It's not the only thing you've got. After all, do you say the only reason that even happened is because he got involved with your ancestors who were crystal ponies? You're one of them too, even if your blood isn't exactly pure origins. Besides, added Twilight, you're only going to be a princess in pretense. Raspberry was still swayed by her skepticism. I still don't see the need. You can blame your blood on that. Because you're the only non-remaining member of the royal imperial family. It's in your headed place in the royal family. Yes, you have to be named princess. Because not doing so will have the other countries see that as a sign of disrespect or weakness on the part of the actual ruling princesses. You can guess the myriad ways they'll try to explain that. You mean boring us to death? Said Rainbow, pantomiming a fake yawn. Not that it's not interesting or anything hearing why Equestria's new princess is going to be the pony who got closer to taking over Equestria than Sombra. By complete accident, interjected Rarity, giving a sly wink to her former source of gems. Yeah. Point is, we're going to be dragged into it anyway later, so I'd rather talk about something else while we're still in Ponyville. Yeah. Wasn't there something about a story we were supposed to hear? Asked Applebloom. Was eager to leave all the business of following royalty behind. Yes, Mr. Ascot was going to tell us how Raspberry saved him, right? Asked Flashside, who had probably paid more attention to Heliodor to the actual discussion being held. Honestly, I didn't do that much, whined Raspberry, though her tone implies he knew otherwise. I say not letting me get turned into a Timberwolf chow is more than recognition than that's not much, reasoned Ascot, who absentmindedly runs a hoof over what looked like to be scarred remains of a serious wound. Especially not when it was a pack of 20 or so and the bastards tried to eat me. See what? Exclaimed all the ponies who didn't record at the retreat, turning to look at a wide-eyed Raspberry. Mulberry Unicorn sighed, figuring he might as well let it pass. It was really more like 15. Ah, now she comes around at last, chuckled the Cashmere. I guess that's your cue for starting, dear. I believe so, too, replied the older Pegasus, taking his seal on Cashmere at the far end of the table, next to Raspberry. Now, picture this. Several months ago, on a dark, stormy night. Thunk went Raspberry, facing her made contact with the table. Of all the ways to start, you go with that one, she lamented, muffled by the table. Like I wasn't already via a tree like some kind of higher power. Let me have some liberties, laughed Ascot, but regardless, you all get the idea. It was a big storm front a while back. Thunder crashing everywhere, rain coming down as Cloudsdale plumbing had broken loose. One of the worst storms in years. But obviously, the storm wouldn't be the most memorable thing for that night. Ascot! Called out Cashmere. Ascot, get back inside! The storm's too fierce! I can handle it! Called back to Pegasus. The supercell that had formed over the Everfree Forest was now making its way over to Ponyville, wreaking havoc on all that stood before it. The weather team had done their best to weaken it, but despite succeeding in splitting the Thunderhead in two, such that half of the storm would be caught above the Everfree until it was safe to let loose, it was only the lesser half. The stronger half was hell-bent on destroying Ponyville, and while it wouldn't succeed, it would cause the insurance companies of no end of trouble afterwards. But in the middle of the storm, the old hanging side of Traveler's Retreat, a relic from earlier times, had been buffeted hard enough for one of the two hooks to fall, leaving the other end previously in the wake of the storm. While the loss of the side normally would have been not that big of a deal, this side was special. It was part of the retreat. Its melting having been in a moment Ascot Cashmere opened for business. It served as a welcoming beacon to all those who needed a place to rest and were of little money. Thus, it was paramount that the side be saved, as reattachment during the storm was out of the question. Ascot was determined to retrieve the sign before it blew right into the night and bring it inside. Honey, come back, please! Cried out Cashmere. This sign isn't worth risking your life. We can get rid of the place. Not that specific one. Too many memories, answered the Pegasus. Having reached the side post. See? Halfway done already. Now, just gotta get this undone. As Ascot managed to get a grip on the sign, an extra powerful gust of wind blew upon the earth. The strength and air current was too much for the Pegasus. Maybe a bit younger he could have held on, but he was almost old enough for people to start assuming he was a grandpa, and he simply wasn't capable. The gale roared into him, making his hoof on the sign's post lose its grip just as the sign's one remaining connection snapped. I think some kind of kite, the sign took the hapless Pegasus, clutching onto it for dear life, as together they were whisked away to Black Oblivion. No! Ascot! Screamed Cashmere, having just watched her husband be stolen into the night. She would have raced after him, probably been one of the few ponies killed in the storm, but some of the retreat's patrons managed to pull her back into safety at the retreat's interior before locking the door behind them. Cashmere knew that her guests had done the right thing, But it didn't stop her uncontrollable sobbing and the mourning of the loss of something vastly far more important than the sight of a small bed and breakfast.
Well, I'm sorry to hear about the sad,
Remarked Captain Bloom.
but honestly, the new side looks like it does face this as well as the old one.
Huh? New side? What are you? Oh, Casimir started laughing. That's not a replacement. The sign out there is the same one that crazy old coot I love nearly died trying to save.
Well, I did save it, didn't I?
Replied Ascot. At the cost of what little fighting dirt you had left, over that nasty scar you got in return. But at least that will keep you from thinking clearly should another storm come.
Hey, I can still fly, thank you,
grumbled Pegasus. I'd like to think the storm brought us something more than a good story, dear. Ascot didn't know how long he had been out. All he could remember was managing to throw the side towards the ground when he thought he had seen the outline of the Everfree Forest's edge. Then, enough draft carried him upwards and away from anything close to a landmark, where he suddenly slammed into what would probably have been a tree. He knew Casimir was going to be furious at him, that risking his life had been stupid considering. The chances were things would end up all right. If he was lucky, he landed near the hut of the zebra alchemist Sakura, or he could wait out the storm. A digging cave would also do, if need be. But he quickly found out that even with the thick forest to add as a breakwind to the storm, the pouring rain and what gusts it does to trees made it difficult for him to move. It was also so dark he could barely see in front of him, having to take care not to step on any paths as a poison joke or hit trees. Fortunately, he came across a well-worn path soon enough. The horses of the path didn't seem to be logical, as ponies didn't come into the forest beyond that one time in Nightmare Night to visit the statue or visit Sakura's on other days. But both the statue and Sakura's hut were relatively close to the edge, a stone throws away from the Ponyville proper practically. The path he was on now appeared to have been used regularly in the past, but was abandoned maybe a few months ago. The first signs of reclamation by the forest began to emerge.
Hopefully, this path will lead somewhere,
grunted Ascot, struggling to resist the fury of the storm. For maybe another half hour, the only noise he heard was the whistling of the gale, the patter of rain, the crack of thunder. But he soldiered on regardless, knowing he had to get somewhere safe to get through the night. Just then, a new sound was heard, a low guttural growl.
Who's there?
Asked the pony to whatever was in the darkness. His answer was not verbal. Rather was then he turned around and saw a pair of glowing green eyes, faded with what looked like wood.
"'Tis a Timberwolf!"
he cried, turning back around now, racing at the fastest clip he could muster. The wooden beasts behind him immediately giving chase, more joining the hunt. Now it truly was a game of life or death. Only Ascot knew he had to get to town now. A local cave could only make him the next meal of the brutes for sure. But good fortune would come in a strange way. He did not reach the edge of the forest. Rather, as galloping stride, his hoof landed on a stray twig that slipped under him. Balance lost, Ascot found himself rolling like a ball off the trail, and finally down a hill, more branches and trees and others instructions. By the time he got to the bottom, he was dazed and needed a bath. He was soon have bigger problems still. Ah! He whinnied, feeling the pain as a particularly agile Timberwolf had managed to catch up and sunk into his splintered jaw into the base of the left wing's mantle, then twisting it slightly, causing the injured muscle to sprain. Ascot managed to time a kick with his hind legs since it got the wolf off of him. But the damage was done. His advancing gaze was making itself known to him, and there was no way he was going to make it anywhere out of this crater, not after having pushed himself to an absolute limit of having fought the storm. Mind-numbing pain from his bleeding wound also ensured his doom if he had any strength to fight in a storm, as did the growing number of timber wolves encircling him. These wolves weren't entirely stupid. He knew just how to wait for him to fall unconscious before tearing him limb from limb, time rapidly approaching. Yet, as his legs gave out, his body crashed to the ground as he struggled to stay awake. He noticed something peculiar. At the bottom of the cradle looked like a worn, shattered remains of what had been a tombstone. One such chunk was close enough that even in poor conditions, he could make out the scratches of the letters. What happened just there? Shame will now be mine, too, thought Ascot as he felt drift near. I'm never going to see my cash. All hell broke loose for no discernible reason. One of the Timberwolves became enshrouded in green fire. Shock keep you awake a little while longer, Scott couldn't figure out how a Timberwolf could spontaneously combust in magic fire in the middle of the pouring rain. But then he saw a shiny green bird racing hell as it shot fire over the place and lighting up the night. Moreover, he saw the silhouette of another pony. His strength reserves exhausted by any reason. He couldn't even cry out as the pony with the bright red eyes, shrouded by the cloak it wore, trying to rush to his aid, only for several wolves so to have burst the newcomer. Before he finally passed out, he saw the bird shoot fire at the pony, hurting the wolves, but no more than merely burning out the cloak of what was mistakenly a young unicorn mare. One Ascot had never seen. His last sign of concern was for the stranger.
No, I don't recall ever getting an explanation for how you managed that trick.
Mused Casimir as he looked at the crazy raspberry. Of course, now that we know of your dark magic, it's easy to see why you dodged the question.
I must agree,
Commented Verity.
it sounds impossible for somebody claiming a handicap of weak magic to be able to fight off an entire pack of Timberwolves. Much less at those kind of distances, with any regular unicorn couldn't survive.
Yeah, a regular unicorn, said Raspberry grumpily. Verity immediately realized Dibs.
Oh, darling, I didn't mean it like that. You're...
Raspberry merely smiled.
Yeah, I know.
But after years of being treated as a monster, regular is still a word I don't associate with my physical being.
No, Ras, my dear,
said Casimir. You're not a monster, but you're also more than just a regular unicorn. You are a miracle. The following morning, search parties had been sent out to see if they could locate the lost Pegasus. In her heart, Casimir feared the worst. It became even more tragic when, by the afternoon, all the search teams came up empty except for one. Was it brought back the sign of all things? Reporting just found before the ends of the Everfree. Casimir had to be held back from being the snot of their group, though. Nothing could stop her from screaming about why they couldn't have found her husband instead of the dumb sign. Nothing except the ringing of the front bell, an unfamiliar voice calling out,
Excuse me, is this Traveler's Retreat?
Her access force, Casimir could do nothing but put on a fake expression, trying to act like everything was fine. She held it for all 5 seconds before seeing what came through the door. There, standing as if he truly was the most natural thing in the world, was a strange sight. In the middle of it all was a mobile unicorn, mane of cauliflower and lilac with frayed dark red eyes. Both coat and mane looking like an absolute mess, with leaves and a twig still or two in her hair. On her horn was parts of green, phoenix, accented with gold, and for whatever reason, looked like he was coming down with a bad cold. Draped over the unicorn's back was Ascot. He too looked to be in terrible condition. The reins of what looked like a bird garment having been hastily used as a tourniquet on a bloody wound on his left wing's mantle. But his breathing was loud enough that there was no question he was alive.
Oh, my Celestia,
was all Casimir could manage as he hurried over to make sure that her husband was all alive.
Ascot, are you all right?
Yeah, but not in best condition, but I'm smack!
Raspberry didn't make any reaction. But closing her eyes and hoping the moment was an unintentional reminder of the traumatic youth at the hands of our loving father would pass soon enough. Ascot, for his part, was stunned as his cheek throbbed red at the mark left by his wife smacking him.
Do you know what you put me through?
She cried, before dragging out the back of the unicorn and hugging him as he letting him go would only lose him again.
Did you ever do something that stupid to me?
I can't lose you, Ascot. Not all this time. I know, love. I think I used up my karma for surviving certain death, with his pony having saved me. His eyes went wide when he realized he'd forgotten something. I'm sorry, but I don't believe I caught your name.
Me? Oh, I'm Raspberry Barrel. My pet Phoenix here is Heliodor.
Miss Beryl, I can't thank you enough for
Bringing my husband back. If there's anything we could do to repay you, just let you know.
Just that Heliodor sneezed.
Actually,
Sorry, Raspberry.
I'm in need of a place to stay. I'm not from around here, you see. Because there's a dead pillar and I travel from town to town, so...
Give you 5 minutes, and I'll have your room ready for you. Though I must ask you to keep your pet under control.
What? Oh no, Healy only has a cold. He was a huge help in saving Mr. Ascot last night. Even though a bird of fire like him doesn't do well in the rain, he's very well behaved, I assure you.
Normally, we don't allow pet phoenixes, but due to insurance, but I think we can make an exception here. That blasted bird is serrating my 3rd best pillow to case the next day, replied Casimir good-naturedly. But to his credit,
It wasn't intentional since he was sick. Thankfully, he hasn't burned the entire place down. Heliodor tweeted angrily. All that caused was a few laughs around the table.
But there you have it, girls, said Ascot. That's how Raspberry and Healy saved my life.
That's still a nasty scar, though. Pointing out Fluttershy.
Compared to what would have happened, I honestly would have been happy if I had to lose the whole thing. Surge and swim makes it difficult for me to fly under my own power. There's no way I'm going to visit Cloudsdale on it without help. But I can't say I had plans of moving back to the clouds when I married Cashmere and opened a groundside bed and breakfast.
That still doesn't stop you from straining it to the point of risking tearing it back open, you know. Chastised Cashmere, for noticing something was amiss elsewhere at the table. Applejack, dear, is something the matter?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, replied the farm boy. Rewinding the story a bit. Did I hear you correctly in that you were able to read what had been on that tombstone?
Yes, answered Ascot. In fact, observe it. The whole setting was strange. That's probably what kept it in my memory more vividly then. Well, whatever it was I was trying to say.
Cashmere and Ascot noted all the ponies at the table were now interested in that trivial detail, as tension could be felt in slight amounts here and there.
Latest tombstone fragment. What were the layers on it?
Let's see. I know that there was a space, and the first word had the letters I and R at the end. Then a space, then the second word had VIS before the edge. I had to figure some pony was buried there a long time ago, maybe a century ago. So it seemed like a picturesque place to lay one to rest, had the weather not been so nasty.
The wolves. So many damn timber wolves.
Added Raspberry. I might as well confess that half the reason my intervention even worked was the timber wolves realized he couldn't hurt me. Then when I dropped the disguise, that got them really running.
Disguise?
Oh, yeah, that, said Raspberry, a blush coming forth from her ears drooping. Sir, you want to see that? I mean, I'm not ever going to not look like this around a retreat. The defensive point of working at a bed and breakfast when you scarred the cotton tail. I believe you should, dear, mused Rarity. You still have problems coming to terms with accepting that side of yourself. But aside from a few details, you aren't as hideous as your ancestor. Plus, did you say you were in that form anyway when you sleep? Added Rainbow. Might be a good idea to let your players know what they might find in your bed so they don't overreact. Indeed, I would agree that's for the best, affirmed Cashmere. The only heart attack when Ascot went missing. So if I mistake you for something else, Raz, it'll truly be the end of me. All right, acquiesced the Red Unicorn. But don't scream, okay? Don't want to wake the guest after all. With the confidence gained in doing this in front of the only ponies he trusted the most, Raspberry let the dark side take over. Normally, she couldn't keep her eyes open, unless he needed to use the unnerving effect of her red eyes suited to a blood-red color, as she had on blue blood. Here she felt she needed to maintain eye contact with Ascot and Cashmere. They were going so far as to claim Raspberry as an adopted daughter that this was going to be the most important event of the day, even more than being pardoned by the highest powers of Equestria for her dark magic use. She needed Ascot and Cashmere to accept that this was her real form. Aside from a sudden gasp at Cashmere, who led slightly to Ascot's embrace, the room was silent. Raspberry and the others, already aware of the truth, waiting for the old couple's response. Raspberry in particular knew they were coming up with words to express what they were feeling. The transformation had been momentary, and sealed to the end when Raz had felt her fangs come in contact with the back of her mouth. This is your real form? Sarah Cashmere, trying to equate the pony before her, one who previously saved her husband. What? Rarity didn't include this in the letters either? Snarled Raspberry. Quick glance at Rarity's direction revealed the embarrassed look on Fashionissa's face. But yes, this is me.
I'm not seeing the problem here,
bluntly said Ascot, mostly the raised eyebrows given to him by every pony.
What? I'm serious. If it was Nightmare Night, then every pony would think it was a great costume. But even so, it's still obviously the same pony we all know as Raspberry Barrel.
Yeah, still me, confirmed Raspberry with a small grin. My usual colors are what I would really look like without the... Corruption? Piped the Babble Balloon, trying to be helpful. Not quite the word I wanted, since my only appearance in the horn are affected. Oh, the teeth too, I guess. So is every pony else we see. My disguise isn't so much as just me showing who I am beneath the dark colors of crystal. Well, stumbled Cashmere in her words. It's a bit more extreme than I thought, admittedly. Oh. Raspberry's grin dropped to her head and ears, seeing how she looked again. Now, wait a minute!
Snapped the earth pony, getting up from her seat and walking over to the younger unicorn.
Don't take what I say as if I'm disapproving you, Raspberry. It's just strange to see some pony Ascot and I come to cherish family look so different. It'll take some time getting used to, no matter getting around that. Well, then again, it's not like I honestly cared about that back when I was younger. I was suing over a pony my parents considered a freak.
So I have 6 lives, big deal, laughed Ascot. The way her parents acted was similar to how most ponies regard you, Raspberry.
With cries of anger, pitchforks, and torches? Sarcastically answered the unicorn, now in a hug of her motherly figure.
Actually, there was this one time.
The rest of the night, having to ponies listened to Ascot and Casimir recount their wilder days of their youth. The two young rebels against a society who decided they're filling, with a knack for making things, uncomfortable, couldn't love the Pegasus who just really liked wearing ascots. It's a balance that's all hell, but still entertaining. As Raspberry was happiest for all, Violet found a family who loved her. Nothing could ruin this moment.
And Kid Ruiner! I'm going to ruin that bitch!
Seized Fair Fist as he ran through the forest. It had been a few days since the ill-fated attempt to possess Apple Bloom had gone horribly wrong. It was all because of that dark magic using unicorn. Fist still couldn't wrap her head around how easily her plot had been handed to her by a spineless wimp. Granted, her unexplained ability to not die had something to do with it, but still, dark magic. Now assistance, Fair Fist knew it was only a matter of time before some pony reported something that would have had the Unicorn Phoenix back on her trail, this time looking to end her for good. She already was unsure of how much time she had left on this plane of existence. Certainly sure as he didn't feel right, even this long after being slanted a dark crystal all over the place. She needed to get a hoof of reality before she could resume anything else. Fortunately, she'd been able to get to Baltimore with little trouble. She thought she had seen some other panty-looking pony notice her a few hours ago. It was nothing. Ghosts didn't exist after all, at least not to those who weren't aware of the supernatural world around them. At least the secret ghost thought. Ah, here it is, said the spirit as he found the opening that led underground. For a reason, the one she tried back at Ponyville surroundings had proven unreachable, as the entrance had been sealed off by a rock named Tom. How she knew it was a name she wouldn't either rationalize or even care about to investigate. The Baltimore detour was wide open. Soon she was growling evilly as the reflective surface of the pool came back to her. The mirror pool would serve her needs nicely. There's a setback that needs to be dealt with, Sable dear, whispered Fista. But I'll make our plan succeed. Just get a little more physical with our enemies.